The massive space station known as Zenith Academy floated silently in the void between three star systems. Its crystalline towers caught the light of distant suns, creating rainbow patterns across its transparent walls. This wasn't just any school. It was the most prestigious educational institution in the galaxy, where the children of peaceful civilizations came to learn about the universe. For 300 years, Zenith Academy had maintained perfect harmony. Students from dozens of different worlds studied together in climate-controlled environments, their delicate bodies protected from the harsh realities of space. The Zephyrians, with their glass-like skin that glowed with emotion, Aleskans, who needed special suits filled with their home world's gentle waters. The Centaurians, with their multiple arms that moved like graceful dancers. All of them had evolved on paradise worlds where danger was almost unknown. But today, everything was about to change. Principal Vexstar stood nearly 3 meters tall, his blue skin shimmering with nervous patterns that his species displayed during stress. His large, kind eyes had seen many challenges during his century of running the academy, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The communication crystal in his office had been blinking red for hours. A priority message from the Galactic Education Council that he'd been dreading to answer. When he finally activated the message, the holographic display showed the seal of the human colonial government. Humans, the species that every civilized world whispered about in fearful tones. The survivors of Earth, a planet so violent and dangerous that it had been classified as a last well death world by galactic standards. The message was simple and terrifying. Exchange student approved. Arrival in 72 standard hours. Vexstar's hands shook as he called an emergency assembly. The Great Hall of Zenith Academy could hold over 1,000 students, and today, every seat was filled. The air recyclers worked overtime as dozens of different species breathed their various atmospheric mixtures, creating a symphony of soft hisses and gentle bubbles. "My dear students," Vexstar began, his voice carrying through the hall's translation systems, "we are about to welcome a new member to our academic family. This student comes from a world it's unlike any we have encountered before." In the third, Rillick pressed her translucent hands against her face. The Zephyrian girl was barely 16, her crystal-like body no bigger than a human child. Light patterns of anxiety flickered across her skin like trapped lightning. "Please don't say it's a human," she whispered to her roommate, Gloop, sitting beside her in a specialized chair filled with pink, nutrient-rich water, began to tremble. The molluscan's boneless body rippled with fear waves. "I've heard stories," she gurgled through her breathing apparatus. "They're predators. Apex predators." The whispers grew louder throughout the hall. Everyone had heard the stories about humans, how they came from a world where everything was trying to kill them, where massive beasts with razor-sharp teeth roamed freely, where the very air was thick enough to crush most species, where liquid death fell from the sky in torrents. "The student's name is Lee Teho," Vexstar continued, trying to keep his voice steady. "He is 17 years old by human standards, and comes with the highest recommendations from their Colonial Education Board." In the faculty section, Professor Quillen activated his personal datapad. The xenobiology expert's 6 eyes widened as Earth's planetary information filled his screen. "Gravity coefficient 2.7, he muttered to himself. "Atmospheric pressure 101.3 kilopascals. Temperature variations from -89 to +57 degrees Celsius." Coach Thrawn, the physical education instructor, nearly dropped his ceremonial fitness crystals. His forearms trembled as he read over Quillen's shoulder. "The native fauna section lists creatures called sharks, tigers, and bears," he whispered. "Each one described as an apex predator capable of killing adult humans. And humans are at the top of that food chain," Quillen added grimly. The student panic was immediate and overwhelming. Study groups that had been calmly discussing quantum mathematics suddenly dissolved into frightened clusters. The aquatic species huddled together, their breathing suits fogging with stress. The aerial species' wing membranes fluttered anxiously. Even the normally calm silicon-based students began to emit worried harmonic frequencies. My older brother works on a trading station near human space, said Zolt, young reptilian whose scales had turned a nervous pale green. He told me humans are giants. Some of them are over 2 meters tall. They have to wear special restraints when they visit other species' worlds because their muscles are too strong. I heard they can lift objects weighing hundreds of kilograms, added Finch. Huh? Bird-like avian whose feathers were standing on end, and their jaws can bite through metal. The rumors grew more terrifying with each retelling. Humans who could run faster than most species' ground vehicles, humans who could go days without food or water, humans who could survive in environments that would kill other species in minutes. 3 days later, the Academy's early warning sensors detected an approaching vessel. Transport Shuttle Alpha 7, registered to the human colonial fleet, was requesting docking permission. The ship itself looked predatory, angular, and dark, built for speed and durability rather than the elegant curves preferred by peaceful species. Principal Vexstar gathered his courage and made his way to Docking Bay 7. He was flanked by 2 security officers, though he wondered what good they would do against a creature evolved to survive a death world. The Academy's medical team stood ready with emergency equipment. Expecting the worst, the Docking Bay's atmosphere processors worked overtime to create a breathable environment for the arriving student. Warning lights flashed as the shuttles, airlocks aligned with the Academy's systems. The mechanical sounds of the docking process echoed through the bay, like the growling of some massive beast. A small crowd of curious students had gathered in the observation gallery above, their faces pressed against the transparent aluminum barriers. They wanted to see the monster that was about to join their school. The airlock hissed open with a sound like escaping steam. Vapor from the atmospheric exchange created a dramatic fog that slowly cleared to reveal a silhouette. The figure was tall, certainly, but not the massive giant they had expected. As the mist cleared, they could see more details. Lee Tahoe stepped out of the shuttle with a confident but non-threatening stride. He was indeed tall by galactic standards, about 1.8 meters. But his movements were surprisingly fluid and controlled. His skin was a warm tan color, and his dark hair was cut short in what humans called a practical style. He wore simple clothing, dark pants, a light blue shirt, and comfortable walking shoes. A single travel bag hung from his shoulder. But what shocked everyone the most was his expression. Instead of the snarling, predatory look they expected, Tahoe was smiling, a genuine warm smile that reached his eyes. When he spoke, his voice was clear and friendly, though several of the more delicate species flinched at what they perceived as an aggressively loud volume. "Hello, everyone," he said in perfect galactic standard, his pronunciation better than many native speakers. "I'm Lee Tahoe, but you can call me Tahoe. I'm really excited to be here and grateful for this opportunity to learn alongside all of you." The silence that followed was deafening. This wasn't the savage warrior they had expected. This was just a young man, polite and enthusiastic, seemed genuinely happy to meet them. Principal Vexstar stepped forward, his blue skin still flickering with nervous patterns. "Welcome to Zenith Academy, Lee Tahoe. We hope your stay here will be educational and peaceful." Tahoe's smile widened. "Thank you so much, Principal Vexstar. I promise I'll do my best to fit in and not cause any trouble." As the crowd began to disperse, whispers followed in their wake. Maybe, just maybe, the stories about humans had been exaggerated. Maybe this wouldn't be the disaster they had all feared. They had no idea how wrong they were about to be. The morning alarm chimed softly through Zenith Academy's corridors, a gentle melody designed not to startle the delicate nervous systems of its alien students. Tahoe woke up in his specially reinforced dormitory room, stretching carefully to avoid hitting the ceiling. That seemed lower than what he was used to back on Earth. His roommate assignment had been postponed indefinitely after 3 different species requested emergency transfers upon learning they'd be sharing space with a human. Walking to the dining hall, Tahoe tried to move as quietly as possible, but his footsteps still echoed through the corridors like thunder. Students pressed themselves against the walls as he passed, their various eyes tracking his movement like prey animals watching a predator. He smiled and waved at a group of young molluscons, who immediately retreated into their shells with wet popping sounds. The dining hall was a marvel of engineering, with different atmospheric zones and specialized food dispensers for each species. Approached the General Nutrition Station, designed to provide basic sustenance for visiting diplomats and researchers. The meal tray felt impossibly light in his hands, like holding a piece of paper. "Good morning," he said cheerfully to Rilak, who was sitting nearby with her crystal-like body catching the morning light beautifully. She looked up with her large, faceted eyes and gave a nervous flicker of acknowledgement before quickly looking away. Tejo sat down carefully on the reinforced chair that had been specially ordered for his arrival. The other furniture in the hall looked like it was built for children, which he supposed it was from his perspective. He began eating the bland but nutritious meal, trying to chew quietly. Even so, the sound of his jaw working seemed to disturb nearby students. When he finished, Tejo picked up his tray to take it to the cleaning station, just like he'd been taught back home. But as he gripped the edges to lift it, the reinforced polymer material cracked with a sound like breaking glass. The tray split completely in half, sending leftover food scattering across the floor. The entire dining hall went silent. Hundreds of alien eyes stared at the destruction in Tejo's hands. Maintenance drones immediately swarmed the area, their mechanical sensors analyzing the damage while they cleaned up the mess with efficient precision. "I'm so sorry," Tejo said, his face burning with embarrassment. "These trays are much more delicate than Earth standard." He looked around at the scared faces surrounding him. "I really didn't mean to break it. I was just trying to clean up after myself." But his explanation only seemed to make things worse. Several students fled the dining hall entirely, leaving half-finished meals behind. Others huddled together in frightened groups, whispering in their native languages. The maintenance drones finished their work and scanned Tejo with red laser lights, apparently cataloging him as a potential hazard. First period was Galactic History with Professor Mindar, an elderly Centaurian who had been teaching for over 2 centuries. The classroom was built like an amphitheater, with curved rows of seats descending toward a central teaching platform. Tejo took a seat in the back row, hoping to be less conspicuous, but his height made him visible from anywhere in the room.
Ow.
"We'll be studying the trade wars of the 4th millennium," Professor Mindar announced, his voice carrying easily through the room's acoustic design. "Please retrieve your reference tablets from the secured storage units beneath your desks." Tejo looked down to find a small metal compartment built into his desk. Like the other students, he grasped the magnetic lock and twisted it counterclockwise as instructed. The lock was designed to require considerable effort, a safety feature, to prevent accidental access to the expensive educational equipment inside. For the alien students, opening these locks required both hands and significant effort. It felt like opening a jar of pickles. He gave it a casual twist, and the entire locking mechanism crumbled in his grip like wet sand. Metal fragments scattered across his desk with tiny ringing sounds. Professor Mindar stopped mid-sentence, his 4 eyes widening in disbelief. "Fascinating," he whispered, pulling out his personal recording device. "The human's grip strength appears to exceed our industrial equipment specifications by several orders of magnitude." Tejo stared at the broken lock in his hand, feeling worse by the minute. "Professor, I'm really sorry. I don't know my own strength sometimes. Can I pay for the damage?" "No need, young human," Professor Mindar replied, though his voice shook slightly. "This is ... educational. Please continue with the lesson using my spare tablet." The rest of the class passed in tense silence. Every time Tejo moved, even slightly, the other students flinched. When he raised his hand to ask a question, 3 Zephyrians in the front row ducked behind their desks, as if taking cover from enemy fire. Lunch period brought another disaster. Tejo noticed a group of Zephyrian students struggling with their table near the windows. Their crystalline bodies needed direct starlight for proper nutrition, but the heavy metal table was too much for their delicate strength to move, being raised to help others. Tejo walked over with a friendly smile. "Hey, need some help with that?" Before they could answer, he grabbed one end of the table and lifted it effortlessly, intending to help them position it better. The table, which normally required for Zephyrians working together to budge, rose into the air like it weighed nothing at all. The effect was immediate and terrifying. The Zephyrians scattered in all directions, their bodies flashing brilliant red with panic signals. One of them tripped over a chair in her haste to escape, landing hard on the floor with a crystalline chiming sound. "Wait, I was just trying to—" "Help!" Tejo called out, setting the table down gently. But his voice, raised in concern, sounded like a battle cry to their sensitive hearing. More students began fleeing the cafeteria, some of them activating emergency communicators. Within minutes, security drones arrived on the scene, their scanners sweeping over Tejo while he stood there holding the table, looking completely lost and confused. The drone's mechanical voices announced potential disturbance detected in 17 different languages simultaneously. "There's no disturbance," Tejo said to the drones. "It's just moving a table," confirmed. "Human subject moved furniture. Designated as heavy by Academy standards without mechanical assistance," the lead drone reported. Incident logged for review. That afternoon, Tejo found himself sitting alone in one of the Academy's observation lounges, watching the stars through the massive transparent walls. Dow, his first day had been a complete disaster, and he couldn't understand why everything he touched seemed to break or cause panic. "Rough day?" Familiar voice asked behind him. Tejo turned to see Kim So-jin, approaching with 2 cups of something that smelled like earth coffee. She was about his age, with kind eyes and an understanding smile. As the Academy's human cultural liaison and graduate researcher, she was the only other person from Earth on the entire station. "The worst," Tejo replied, accepting the cup gratefully. "I've broken 2 pieces of equipment, scared about 50 students, and caused a security incident. And it's not even dinner time yet." Sojin sat down beside him, her movements careful and controlled in the way that all humans had to learn when living among more fragile species. "It's always like this at first," she said kindly. "I remember my first week here.
Accidentally
Broke 3 door handles, crushed a communicator, sent an entire classroom of students to the medical bay when I sneezed too loudly." "But I haven't done anything wrong," Tejo protested. "I'm trying to be helpful, trying to fit in." "You exist," Sojin replied simply. "To them, that's terrifying enough. We're living reminders that the universe contains things that can hurt them, things they can't control or predict." She gestured toward the stars visible through the lounge. "Windows. Look at this place. Climate controlled, gravity adjusted, atmosphere filtered. It's paradise for species that evolved on gentle worlds. Then we show up creatures from a planet that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. So what do I do?" Tejo asked. So Jin smiled. "You keep being yourself. Eventually they'll realize that being strong doesn't make you evil. Being dangerous doesn't make you cruel." She paused, then added with a mischievous grin, "Though I should warn you, tomorrow you have physical education class with Coach Thrun. That's when things get really interesting." That evening, an emergency faculty meeting was called in the Academy's main conference room. The holographic display showed incident reports from throughout the day, each one cataloging another example of Tejo's unintentional destruction or the panic his presence had caused. Coach Thrawn paced nervously in front of the assembled teachers, his 4 arms gesticulating wildly. "How am I supposed to conduct a normal gymnasium class with a Class 12 Deathworlder present?" he demanded. "Our standard exercises might not even register as movement to his physiology." Principal Vexstar consulted his tablet, reviewing Tejo's medical files that had been transmitted from Earth. According to his health records, Lee Tejo is considered completely average by human standards. "Perhaps we can modify the curriculum temporarily." "Average?" Coach Thrawn's voice rose to a pitch that made several teachers cover their hearing organs. "This average human casually destroyed a magnetic lock rated for industrial use. He lifted. "Furniture that normally requires mechanical assistance. If this is average, what would an exceptional human be capable of?" Professor Quillen activated his holographic display, showing comparative physiological data. "Based on today's observations, I estimate that young Tejo is operating at perhaps 10% of his actual physical capacity. He's clearly trying not to damage anything, but his normal movements are still beyond our equipment specifications." 10%? Whispered Professor Mindar. Great cosmic forces preserve us all. The meeting continued late into the night, the teachers debating everything from specialized equipment to emergency protocols. None of them noticed the small maintenance drone hovering outside the conference room, its sensors recording every word for the Academy's daily logs. Tomorrow would bring the physical education class that everyone was dreading. And somewhere in his dormitory room, Taeho lay awake staring at the ceiling. Wondering if coming to Zenith Academy had been a terrible mistake, the gymnasium's automatic doors hissed open at exactly 0800 hours, releasing a wave of carefully controlled atmosphere into the corridor. Gymnasium Complex Beta was the pride of Zenith Academy, a massive facility that could simulate dozens of different planetary conditions within its walls. The ceiling stretched nearly 50 meters high, dotted with artificial stars that provided natural light cycles for photosynthetic species. Students began filtering in through multiple entrances, each species using doorways calibrated for their size and atmospheric needs. The Zephyrians entered through portals filled with crystalline mist that helped their bodies maintain proper light refraction. The molluskins came through water-sealed chambers that kept their breathing apparatus properly hydrated. The avians swooped in through aerial access ports near the ceiling. Coach Thrawn stood in the center of the gymnasium, his forearms busy making final adjustments to the obstacle course equipment. He had been the Academy's physical education instructor for nearly 40 years, and in all that time, he had never faced a challenge like this. His usually pristine ceremonial fitness crystals were dulled with stress, and his normally perfect posture showed signs of the sleepless night he'd endured. The coaching staff had worked through the night, recalibrating every piece of equipment. In the facility, safety protocols had been reviewed and updated 17 times. Emergency medical teams were on standby in 3 different locations. The Academy's insurance department had filed preliminary damage reports for equipment they expected to be destroyed. "Attention students," Coach Thrawn announced, his voice carrying through the gymnasium's advanced acoustic system that automatically adjusted volume and frequency for each species present. "Today marks our monthly comprehensive fitness assessment. As always, this evaluation is designed to challenge your physical capabilities while maintaining absolute safety standards." Around the gymnasium, 43 students from 12 different species took their positions. The facility's environmental controls worked overtime to maintain optimal conditions for everyone, adjusting gravity, atmospheric pressure, humidity, and temperature in different zones to accommodate each student's needs. Rillick stood near the front, her crystalline body catching and refracting the artificial starlight into beautiful rainbow patterns. Her translucent skin showed nervous flickers. A pale blue light. Beside her, Gloop's gelatinous form rippled with anticipation inside her mobility suit. Zolt flexed his scaled muscles, his reptilian eyes focused on the course ahead. Then the main entrance opened, and Taeho walked in. The temperature in the gymnasium seemed to drop several degrees as every conversation stopped mid-sentence. Taeho was dressed in what humans considered standard athletic wear, black synthetic shorts that ended just above his knees, a light gray moisture-wicking shirt that fits snugly across his chest, and white athletic shoes with flexible soles designed for Earth's brutal gravity. To the alien students, he looked like a warrior preparing for mortal combat. His clothing was form-fitting, rather than the loose, flowing garments preferred by most species. His shoes had aggressive treads that looked designed for gripping hostile terrain. Even his casual stretching routine, reaching his arms above his head and rotating his shoulders, looked like combat preparation to eyes that had never seen a predator species exercise. "Good morning, Coach Thrawn," Taeho said cheerfully, his voice echoing slightly in the vast space. "Sorry if I'm a few minutes late. I got lost trying to find the right entrance." Coach Thrawn's forearms trembled slightly as he consulted his data tablet. "No problem at all, Lee Taeho. Please take your position with the other students. Today, we will be conducting our standard fitness evaluation." The obstacle course stretched across the central area of the gymnasium like a carefully designed playground. Each station had been engineered by the galaxy's top safety experts to provide appropriate physical challenges without risking injury to the delicate physiologies of the Academy's students. Station 1 consisted of 6 barriers, each exactly 15 centimeters high, about the height of a human's hand. For most species at the Academy, these represented a significant stepping challenge that required careful coordination and balance. Station. It featured soft foam projectiles and collection baskets positioned at various distances. The projectiles were so light that Earth's atmosphere would have made them impossible to throw accurately. But in the gymnasium's controlled environment, they provided a test of hand-eye coordination and spatial reasoning. Station 3 was a balance beam raised 30 centimeters above a cushioned landing area. The beam itself was nearly 2 meters wide, broad enough for most species to walk across comfortably, but narrow enough to require concentration and body control. Station 4 consisted of a precisely measured 50-meter walking track with sensors embedded in the floor to monitor pace, stride length, and cardiovascular response. The track's surface was designed to provide optimal grip for every type of foot, claw, or appendage used by the Academy's diverse student body. Station 5 featured a series of large coordination rings suspended from the ceiling at various heights. Students were expected to pass through each ring while maintaining controlled movement. Essentially a three-dimensional navigation challenge. Station 6 was a climbing wall that rose just 3 meters from the floor, with handholds spaced generously apart in a thick cushioning system below. The holds were designed to accommodate every type of gripping appendage and were positioned to require minimal actual climbing skill. Students, please observe, as Rillick demonstrates proper form and technique, Coach Thrawn announced, gesturing toward the crystalline girl who stepped forward with visible nervousness. Rillick approached the first station with the careful precision of her species. Each barrier required her to lift her leg deliberately, plant her foot carefully on the other side, and then shift her weight gradually to maintain balance. Her crystal body caught the light beautifully as she moved, creating dancing rainbows. Across the gymnasium floor, the entire process took nearly 2 minutes. At the projectile station, she picked up each foam ball with delicate care, examining it from multiple angles before taking aim. Her throws were gentle arcs that seemed to float through the air in slow motion. Several projectiles missed their targets entirely, but she continued with patient determination. The balance beam presented no real challenge for a species with relaxed natural grace, but she still moved across it with careful, measured steps. Her arms extended for balance in a way that looked almost like dancing. The walking track became a showcase of Zephyrian elegance as Rillick maintained a steady, rhythmic pace that her species had evolved for maximum energy efficiency on their low gravity homeworld. Her feet barely seemed to touch the track surface. The coordination rings allowed her to demonstrate the spatial awareness that made Zephyrians such excellent navigators. She flowed through each ring with fluid movements, her body adjusting its position with mathematical precision. Finally, the climbing wall. Rillick approached each handhold with careful consideration, testing her grip before committing her weight. Her ascent was slow but steady, and she reached the top with obvious pride. Excellent demonstration, Coach Thrawn praised, his voice carrying genuine admiration. Total time, 18 minutes 43 seconds, a new personal record, Rillick. The crystalline girl's body flickered with pleased golden light as she returned to her classmates. Around the gymnasium, other students applauded in their various ways, some clapping, others producing harmonic tones, a few creating light patterns of approval. Glope approached the course next, her gelatinous body presenting unique challenges and advantages. The barriers required assistance from floating support devices, but her malleable form allowed her to flow through the coordination rings with incredible ease. Zolt's reptilian physiology gave him natural advantages in balance and projectile accuracy, though his cold-blooded metabolism meant he moved more slowly through the cardiovascular sections. One by one, students completed the course with times ranging from 15 to 25 minutes. Each performance was met with encouragement and praise from Coach Thrawn, who carefully recorded every measurement and observation. Then it was Tejo's turn. "Remember," Coach Thrawn said, his voice betraying his nervousness despite his attempts. "To sound calm, this assessment is about proper form and efficient movement, not speed or strength. Please take your time and focus on technique rather than I understand, Coach," Tejo replied with a smile. "Just like back home, form over speed, right?" He approached the starting line with the casual confidence of someone who had been through similar exercises countless times. Around the gymnasium, alien students pressed closer to the safety barriers, their various eyes fixed on the human who was about to attempt their carefully designed obstacle course. The silence was broken only by the gentle hum of life support systems and the soft whirring of recording devices as faculty members prepared to document whatever was about to happen. Tejo took a deep breath, rolled his shoulders once more, and stepped up to the first barrier. The galaxy was about to learn what average meant on a death world. The starting signal chimed softly through the gymnasium's speakers, a gentle tone designed not to startle any of the delicate species present. Tejo nodded to Coach Thrawn and began moving toward the first obstacle, completely unaware that he was about to rewrite every fitness record in Zenith Academy's 3-century history. The barrier section looked almost comically small to him. Back on Earth, these obstacles would barely qualify as speed bumps on a jogging trail. He approached them with the casual stride of someone walking down a sidewalk, his human gait naturally adjusted for the lighter gravity of the space station. What the alien spectators witnessed next would become the subject of heated academic debates for years to come. Tejo simply walked through the barrier section, his legs moving in what appeared to be normal steps, but each stride carried him effortlessly over obstacles that other students had to carefully navigate one at a time. His feet never touched a single barrier, and he never broke his relaxed pace. To him, it felt like stepping over small rocks on a hiking trail. To the watching aliens, it looked like he was defying the laws of physics. "Did he just ... float?" whispered Finch, the avian student whose own flight-capable species couldn't achieve such smooth movement through the barriers. The electronic timer above the first station beeped in confusion. It had been programmed to measure times in minutes, not seconds. Tejo had completed the barrier section in 11 seconds, a time so fast that the system initially registered it as a malfunction. At the projectile station, Tejo picked up the first foam ball and examined it briefly. The object felt like holding a feather, so light that Earth's atmosphere would have made accurate throwing nearly impossible. He reminded himself to be gentle as he aimed for the first basket, about 10 meters away. His throw was what he considered a soft, underhand toss, the kind of gentle motion you'd use to hand something to a small child. The foam ball streaked through the air like a miniature missile, hitting the collection net with an audible impact that echoed through the gymnasium. The net, designed to catch gently lobbed projectiles, bulged dramatically as the ball embedded itself deep within the synthetic fibers. "Perfect accuracy," announced the automated scoring system, its mechanical voice betraying a hint of electronic confusion. Tejo repeated the process with the remaining projectiles, each throw appearing effortless but producing results that seemed to violate the gymnasium's carefully calculated physics. Ball after ball slammed into their targets with precision that would have impressed a military sniper, while Tejo maintained the relaxed posture of someone playing a casual backyard game. Total time for the projectile section: 4.7 seconds. The previous record had been 41 seconds. The balance beam station drew gasps from the watching crowd. The apparatus had been designed as a genuine challenge, a narrow beam that required concentration and careful foot placement to traverse safely. Species with natural balance advantages, like the avians, still took their time crossing it. Tejo walked onto the beam like he was crossing a bridge. His human inner ear evolved to maintain balance while climbing trees and navigating uneven terrain on a high-gravity world made the 2-meter-wide beam feel as stable as a city sidewalk. His casual stride never wavered, his arms hung relaxed at his sides, and he completed the crossing while looking around at the other students with a friendly smile. "Is that even the same apparatus?" Coach Thrawn muttered, checking his equipment. "Readings 3 times." But it was the walking track where the true magnitude of Tejo's physical capabilities became apparent. The 50-meter course had been precisely measured and calibrated for comprehensive cardiovascular assessment. Students were expected to maintain their optimal, sustainable pace fast enough to elevate their heart rate, but slow enough to avoid exhaustion. Taeho began walking at what felt like his normal pace, the same speed he would use to cross a school parking lot or walk to a neighborhood store. His stride was long but relaxed. His breathing remained steady, and his expression showed no signs of exertion whatsoever. The alien students pressed against the safety barriers, watching in stunned silence as the human covered ground at a rate that seemed impossible. His legs moved with the efficient rhythm of a species that had evolved to travel vast distances on foot, each step carrying him forward with mechanical precision. "Is he injured?" Kloop asked, her gelatinous form rippling. With concern, "Why is he moving so strangely?" "That's not strange movement," whispered Zolt, his reptilian eyes tracking Taeho's progress with predatory focus. "That's hunting pace. I've seen it in nature documentaries about apex predators." The timer above the track section clicked steadily, downward. 45 seconds, 40 seconds, 35 seconds. Coach Thrawn stared at his chronometer in disbelief and tapped it sharply against his palm, certain the device had malfunctioned. Taeho crossed the finish line at exactly 47 seconds, a time that shattered the previous record by nearly for minutes. Wasn't breathing hard, wasn't sweating, and looked like he could immediately repeat the performance without any rest period. The coordination rings presented what should have been the most challenging obstacle for a large, muscular species like humans. The hoops were suspended at various heights and angles, requiring three-dimensional navigation skills and precise body control. Tae-Ho approached them with the fluid grace of someone who had spent his childhood playing sports and climbing jungle gyms. His movements looked like a carefully choreographed dance as he flowed through each ring without touching the sides. His body seemed to bend and twist in ways that defied the rigid anatomy that most species associated with muscle-heavy builds. "It's like watching water flow through a maze," breathed Rilak, crystalline body flickering with amazed light patterns. The climbing wall represented the final station, and it was here that the true incompatibility between human capabilities and alien equipment became most apparent. The holds had been positioned for species with limited grip strength and climbing ability, creatures who needed generous spacing and multiple contact points to safely ascend 3 meters. Taeho placed his hand on the first hold and immediately felt the material crack under what he considered gentle pressure. The synthetic polymer, rated to support twice the weight of the heaviest species at the Academy, crumbled like old bread in his grip. "Careful with the equipment," he muttered to himself, redistributing his weight across multiple holds to avoid further damage. But even with his conscious restraint, his natural climbing ability made the wall look like a horizontal surface rather than a vertical challenge. He reached the top in 12 seconds. Having barely exerted any effort at all, the gymnasium's automated announcement system chimed with mechanical confusion. "New Academy record established. Previous record holder, Zolt of Serenitas Minor. Previous time, 18 minutes, 12 seconds. New record holder, Lee Taeho of Earth. New time, 2 minutes, 17 seconds. The silence that followed was broken only by the soft whimpering sound of a Zephyrian student who had fainted and fallen to the cushioned floor with a crystalline chiming noise. Coach Thrawn stood frozen, staring at his recording equipment as if it had personally betrayed him. His forearms moved frantically over his data tablets, checking and rechecking readings that seemed to mock the very foundations of physics as understood by galactic civilization. "That's impossible," he whispered. "The sensors must be malfunctioning. No organic being can move that efficiently. No cardiovascular system can maintain that performance without visible stress responses." But Taeho wasn't finished. The obstacle course had been what humans would call a light warm-up, barely enough activity to get his blood flowing. Back on Earth, gym class would just be getting started after such a brief introduction. He dropped to the gymnasium floor and began what he considered basic stretching exercises. 20 push-ups performed with the casual efficiency of someone going through a daily routine. Each repetition looked like anti-gravity magic to the watching aliens. As Taeho's body moved up and down with mechanical precision against the space station's artificial gravity, The push-ups were followed by jumping. Jack's a simple cardio exercise that involved jumping while spreading his legs and clapping his hands above his head. But in the controlled atmosphere of the gymnasium, his hand claps created small sonic pops that echoed like gunshots off the walls. The sound sent several alien students diving for cover behind exercise equipment, their various survival instincts triggered by what they interpreted as explosive detonations. "Should we evacuate?" asked Finch, her feathers standing on end as she crouched behind a balance beam. "Should we call medical emergency services?" Zalt added, his scales shifting to a pale green color that indicated extreme stress. "He appears to be having some kind of violent seizure." At that moment, the gymnasium's main entrance opened to admit Park Min-ho, a human graduate student who had been studying xenobiology at the academy for the past year. He took one look at the scene, Taeho, casually exercising while 43 alien students cowered in terror around the gymnasium's perimeter, and immediately understood what was happening. "Taeho," called out in Korean, his voice cutting through the confused babble of alien languages. "Stop. You're scaring them." Taeho immediately ceased his jumping jacks and looked around at the terrified faces surrounding him. For the first time, he noticed that every single alien in the gymnasium was pressed against the walls, staring at him with expressions of absolute terror. "Oh no," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was just warming up." The realization hit him like a physical blow. He had just demonstrated capabilities that were completely beyond the comprehension of beings who had evolved on peaceful worlds. To them, his casual exercise routine looked like the preparations of a creature about to engage in mortal combat. In the observation gallery above, Principal Vexstar sat in stunned silence, his blue skin flickering with patterns that hadn't been seen since the last time his species had encountered an actual predator in the wild. What they had just witnessed would change everything. The emergency assembly hall buzzed with nervous energy as every student, faculty member, and staff worker at Zenith Academy gathered for what Principal Vexstar had called a critical address regarding recent events. The massive auditorium could hold over 2,000 beings, and today every seat was occupied. Floating platforms accommodated aerial species, while specialized chambers housed aquatic students. The air itself shimmered with different atmospheric mixtures as the life support systems worked overtime. Taeho sat in the front row, his face burning with embarrassment as thousands of alien eyes stared at him. Beside him, Kim So-jin offered quiet support while Dr. Kim Hae-won, the Academy's newly arrived human physiology expert, prepared her presentation materials. The past 24 hours had been a whirlwind of medical examinations, equipment assessments, and emergency consultations with experts across the galaxy. Principal Vexstar approached the central podium, his blue skin displaying the deep purple patterns that indicated serious concern among his species. The massive holographic displays around the auditorium activated, showing the Academy's official seal alongside real-time translation matrices for the dozens of languages represented. In the audience, students, faculty, and honored guests, Vexstar began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall's advanced acoustic systems. Yesterday's events in Gymnasium Complex Beta have raised important questions about our understanding of human physiology and behavior. I stand before you today to address the misconceptions that have led to unnecessary fear and confusion. Murmurs rippled through the crowd in various languages and communication methods. Light patterns flickered among the Zephyrians. Harmonic tones emerged from the resonant species, and chemical signals wafted from the aromatic beings. There has been a significant misunderstanding regarding Lee Taeho's actions during physical education class. The principal continued. What many interpreted as aggressive displays or attempts at intimidation were, in fact, examples of considerable restraint and adaptation to our Academy's environment. Taeho shifted uncomfortably in his seat as the gymnasium footage began playing. On the holographic displays, watching himself move through the obstacle course from an outside perspective, he could finally understand why the alien students had been so terrified. His normal human movements looked impossibly fast and powerful compared to the gentle, deliberate motions of his classmates. Dr. Kim Hae-won stepped forward, activating her personal holographic projector. Detailed anatomical diagrams of human and various alien physiologies appeared in the air above the audience, rotating slowly to show comparative muscle density, bone structure, and cardiovascular systems. What you witnessed yesterday represents approximately 15% of average human physical capacity, she explained, her voice steady and professional. The exercises that Taeho performed, the push-ups, jumping jacks, and movement through the obstacle course are considered light warm-up activities on Earth, suitable for children as young as 6 years old. A collective gasp echoed through the auditorium. 15%. The implications were staggering. If what they had seen was barely a fraction of human capability, what were these beings truly capable of when fully exerted? Furthermore, Dr. Kim continued, manipulating the holographic displays to show gravitational comparisons. Earth's surface gravity measures 9.8 meters per second squared, nearly 3 times the galactic standard that our space stations in peaceful worlds maintain. Every movement Taeho makes requires conscious calculation and restraint. The display shifted to show a human figure moving through various activities, with force measurements and impact calculations overlaid in real time. When Taeho walked normally, the sensors showed foot impacts that would be considered heavy machinery operation by galactic standards. When he spoke at conversational volume, the audio analysis revealed sound pressure levels that registered as potential weapon discharge to species with sensitive hearing. Each handshake, Dr. Kim explained, requires him to consciously limit his grip strength to avoid crushing the appendages of other species. Each breath must be carefully controlled to prevent vocal cord damage in your lower atmospheric pressure. Even his casual movements generate forces that exceed the safety specifications of most galactic standard equipment. In the audience, Coach Thrawn's forearms trembled as he realized the magnitude of the restraint Taeho had been showing. The broken equipment, the cracked climbing holds, embedded foam balls, all of that had been the human trying to be gentle. Professor Quillen stood up from his seat, his 6 eyes blinking in rapid succession, a sign of deep contemplation among his species. Dr. Kim, are you suggesting that humans are consciously moderating their physical output at all times when interacting with other galactic species? That's exactly what I'm suggesting, Dr. Kim replied. Restraint. Humans have evolved complex social structures specifically designed to channel their capabilities toward protection and cooperation rather than dominance or aggression. The weeks following the assembly saw a remarkable transformation throughout. Zenith Academy. The initial terror that had gripped the student body began to evolve into something entirely different. Curiosity. Students who had once fled from Taeho's presence started approaching him with questions about Earth, human society, and the incredible world it had produced such remarkable beings. Relok was among the first to overcome her fear. The crystalline girl approached Taeho in the library, her translucent body flickering with nervous light patterns as she worked up the courage to speak. Taeho, she said quietly, is it true that humans can survive in environments that would kill most other species in minutes? Taeho looked up from his xenobiology textbook, a subject he was studying to better understand his classmates, and smiled gently. Well, Earth is pretty tough, he admitted. We have storms with winds over 300 kilometers per hour temperature, swings of 80 degrees in a single day, and animals that ... Well, let's just say they make great action movie monsters. But how do you live with such constant danger? Relak asked, sitting down carefully in the reinforced chair across from him. You adapt, Taeho replied simply. Signs work together and take care of each other. The dangerous stuff makes you appreciate the peaceful moments more. The turning point in campus opinion came during what became known as the dormitory incident. It was a typical Tuesday evening when the gravitational stabilizers in Residential Complex C began malfunctioning. The backup systems failed to engage properly, creating a localized high-gravity field that reached nearly twice galactic standard, still less than Earth normal, but devastating for species evolved on gentle worlds. 3 students, Gloop, a young avian named Chirp, and a silicon-based student called Resonance, were caught in the affected area when a structural support beam, weakened by the gravitational stress, broke free from its mounting and crashed down across the corridor exit. The beam, made of reinforced polymer composite designed to withstand meteor impacts, now trapped the three students in an environment that was slowly crushing them under its increased gravitational pull. Emergency services estimated a minimum 2-hour response. Time to bring in industrial lifting equipment capable of moving the massive obstruction. The students didn't have 2 hours. Taeho heard the emergency alarms from 3 corridors away. Was in his room, carefully practicing Korean calligraphy, an activity that helped him maintain the fine motor control necessary for interacting safely with delicate alien technology. The moment he heard the specific tone pattern that indicated gravitational emergency, he dropped his brush and ran toward the sound. He found the 3 trapped students within minutes. Following the emergency beacon signals through the Academy's corridor system, the high-gravity field hit him like a familiar embrace. It felt almost like home. For the alien students, the increased gravitational pull was slowly crushing their delicate internal structures. For Taeho, it was just a slightly more challenging workout environment. The structural beam lay across the corridor like a fallen tree, its polymer composite construction gleaming under the emergency lighting. Warning signs in 17 languages indicated that the object weighed over 2,000 kilograms and required industrial equipment for safe removal. Taeho didn't hesitate. He grabbed the beam with both hands, his human muscles engaging with the practiced efficiency of a species that had evolved to move heavy objects for survival. The polymer composite creaked and groaned as he lifted it, not from any strain on his part, but from the material stress of being moved faster than its engineers had ever intended. "Are you hurt?" he asked gently as the 3 students crawled out from under the beam, his voice somehow managing to sound calm and reassuring despite the emergency situation. "Can you move? Do you need medical attention?" Gloop's gelatinous form was barely maintaining cohesion after the gravitational stress, but she managed a weak gesture of gratitude. Chirp's delicate wing bones had been compressed but not broken. Resonance's crystalline structure showed stress fractures but remained stable. "Medical teams are on the way," Taeho continued, carefully lowering the beam to a safe position where it wouldn't block corridor access. "Everything's going to be okay." Word of the rescue spread through the Academy's communication networks faster than a plasma fire. Students who had spent weeks whispering fearfully about the dangerous human suddenly saw him in an entirely different light. Here was a being capable of incredible destruction, who had chosen instead to risk himself saving others. The transformation in campus culture was immediate and profound. Students began seeking out Taeho's company, eager to learn about Earth and hear stories about human society. They discovered that the same physical capabilities that had initially terrified them came with an equally powerful sense of responsibility and care for others. Coach Thren became one of Taeho's strongest advocates, completely redesigning the physical education curriculum to accommodate the vast differences in species capabilities. Taeho became his unofficial teaching assistant, helping modify exercises and equipment while demonstrating infinite patience with students struggling to master basic physical skills. "Watch how Reluk distributes her weight," Taeho would say, encouragingly to a young molluscan student attempting the balance beam. "See how her crystalline structure naturally adjusts for optimal stability? That's not just good technique, that's beautiful form that us humans could never achieve." His teaching style emphasized the unique strengths of each species, rather than trying to make everyone conform to a single standard. Zephyrians learned to use their light-bending abilities for spatial navigation exercises. Molluskins discovered advantages and flexibility challenges. Avians developed aerial coordination routines that left ground-based species in a dod by semester's end. Taeho had become the Academy's unofficial protector and, surprisingly, its most popular student. Kim So-jin often found him in the common areas during social periods, surrounded by alien classmates eager to hear stories about Earth weather patterns, human sports, or the incredible biodiversity of a world where evolution had been driven by constant environmental pressure. The final transformation in how the Academy viewed humans came during the annual Cultural Exchange Festival. Each species was expected to share some aspect of their homeworld's cultural heritage. and everyone assumed Taeho would demonstrate human physical prowess or perhaps show combat techniques from Earth's warrior traditions. Instead, he chose to teach a traditional Korean dance. The performance began with Taeho in simple, flowing clothing that allowed complete freedom of movement. As the music started, a gentle melody that human composers had created specifically for intercultural exchange, he began to move with a grace that seemed impossible for someone of his size and strength. Every motion was carefully controlled, every step precisely placed. He moved like water, flowing around obstacles, like wind bending through trees. The dance told the story of seasons changing on Earth, humans working together to survive harsh winters and celebrate abundant summers. But the most remarkable aspect of the performance was how he adapted it in real time to allow his alien friends to participate. When Relok joined in, he adjusted his movements to complement her crystalline light-bending abilities. When Gloop flowed into the dance, he created space for her unique form to express the music's rhythm. When Zolt added his reptilian precision to the choreography, Taeho seamlessly incorporated it into the larger pattern. By the end of the performance, dozens of students from multiple species were moving together in harmony, each contributing their unique capabilities to create something beautiful that none could have achieved alone. Principal Vexstar watched from the observation gallery, his blue skin displaying the deep gold patterns that indicated profound emotional revelation among his species. In that moment, he realized something that would change his understanding of humans forever. They hadn't domesticated a dangerous predator by bringing Taeho to their academy. They had discovered that true strength lay not in the capacity for destruction, but in the choice to create and protect. His final report to the Human Colonial Education Board would become required reading at diplomatic academies throughout the galaxy. The humans are not the monsters we feared. They're the guardians we didn't know we needed. Their greatest weapon is not their physical prowess, but their capacity for compassion and their instinctive drive to use their strength in service of others. The galaxy is safer with them among the stars. Standing at his office window weeks later, watching Taeho carefully organize a game of modified Earth tag that all species could safely enjoy, Sojin smiled with quiet pride. Another human had successfully integrated into galactic society, proving once again that the species which had survived a death world had done so not through violence or domination, but through their unbreakable bonds of friendship, cooperation, and protection of those who needed it most. The Academy's annual report to the Aquatic Education Council concluded with a simple but revolutionary recommendation: expand the human exchange program immediately. The galaxy needs more of them. The end.